What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Plate Coverage. It's only been a few days, but yeah, here we are. Commish, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. It's hard to believe we're already almost 2 months into baseball season, but for context, man, we still have 5 months left. It's only May. We have June, July, August,
Yeah,
September, October left. It's a grind. We weren't kidding. We said the season's 187 days long, and I mean, you do this day in, day out, and you're like, man, we've been doing this for a minute. You still got a lot of minutes left to go. It's a lot of fun, a lot of good baseball being played around the league. So it's good to be back talking with you.
yeah. I think there's the best part about baseball is that the variance in it. So there's these streaky teams like right now. Obviously, the Rockies are in the middle of a 5-game winning streak. Looks like they're about to make it 6 games. I think it is after tonight beating the Padres yet again. A Padres team that just came off of a huge series coming into this series. They were 7-3 coming into this series. 2 huge wins against the Dodgers, and then just fall just completely flat on their face. But that is baseball in a nutshell, right there. You never know what you're really going to get, but there's been a lot of things to talk about over the last, even though there's only been a couple days since we've had our last one. But one of those new things is bat speed. Commish, I know you're a lot more technical into this than I am. Why don't you take us through this bat speed segment really quick?
Yeah, so for those that are unaware, this is a really, really, really cool tool that Major League Baseball made available to the public this past week. And I'm sure if you've been nerding out, if you're a nerd like me and Toast, I'm sure you've seen it on Twitter the last couple of days. But they have released a full suite of bat tracking data on Baseball Savant. Really, really cool. All available to the public. It's all free. If you just Google bat tracking MLB or bat tracking MLB Savant, this will come up. But it's really, really cool. It shows you, it's got an interactive map at the top of the page when you show up here. So you can see the guys with the best bat speed on average in the big leagues, guys like Giancarlo, O'Neill Cruz. And then you can see guys on the lower end, Justin Turner, who's obviously an aging veteran, Charlie Blackmon, an older guy as well. Some of those guys that make sense. Really, really cool filters as well. This is something they've been teasing for a while that we're going to get bat speed data. I had no idea that we were going to get such granular filters that we were going to be able to use. So that's been pretty cool. But it's really, really fun to just look, and some of this is really intuitive and some of it's not. But guys like Giancarlo, who we see hit piss missiles, it seems like at least once a week. We know he can hit the baseball as hard as anybody in the league. Leading baseball with over an 80-mile-an-hour average bat speed. It's cool too. So if you're on this page, you can hit link right here, and it will show you the individual's player's bat speed distribution chart compared to the league average. So what this is showing you with the league is their league average. You can see right around 72 miles an hour is the league average bat speed. So this is where you see this little hill right here. You come down. These are guys that are on the higher end of the distribution. Well, Giancarlo, he swings the bat really, really fast, and you can see that very easily with his data here to the right of this chart. Guys that don't have very good bat speed, it's intuitive. Luis Arraez, Stephen Kwan, Nicky Lopez, some of the smaller guys in baseball. So it's really cool. This is really, really awesome data. It also has swing length, which is really interesting. So this is how long a player's swing is. The longer your swing is, more holes in your swing. I mean, that's always the way that you're coaching, and it's so guys that have the shorter swings in Major League Baseball, the Arraez, the Verdugos, the Kwans, Justin Turners, like these are all very high contact guys, which makes sense. You eliminate a lot of the unnecessary movement. You're quick, short to the baseball. You have probably better bat to ball skills than a lot of guys. So it's really, really cool. You can run this alongside contact percentage, swing percentage, a lot of different cool metrics that they have here. They have little question marks and things that help explain things. It's a cool tool. I'm gonna pull up this other like how-to chart in a sec while Toast shares his thoughts on the new data.
And yeah, so just to go over it, like just in a very basic thing, what this essentially is what we have for pitchers. And just really briefly, just and keep in mind, this is all very new stuff. There's obviously going to be some professionals that work inside Major League Baseball that are obviously going to be much more attuned to this stuff. But keep in mind, in 2006, we got pitch X and stuff like that everybody in every ballpark got, and it did velocity and stuff like like that. And then in 2015, we got the TrackMan stuff in every park that started doing with the spin rates and all that good stuff. And then in 2020, we got these Hawkeye crammers that now everybody loves, like the exit velos and launch angles and all that stuff. And this is like just another chapter of that. So they're going to be capturing bat speed, which is essentially just the sweet spot of the bat, where and how it hits the ball, obviously how fast a swing is. A fast swing in Major League Baseball is anything over 75 miles an hour. They track about how well do you square up a ball. They talk about this thing they call it a blast, which is the most valuable swing that there is. A blast is a swing that is squared up and it's very fast. It doesn't happen very often. I mean, obviously the better players do it more often. They even have things like a sword. If you don't know what a sword is, watch Pitching Ninja. But that's essentially when a batter looks terrible. That's when defined as a swinging strike where the swing is incomplete and the speed is in the lowest 10 percentile. So they're essentially going like that. If you're probably watching this, you probably know what a sword is. But yeah, there's a lot of cool things to come out of this. I will say that one of the other things that nobody's probably talking about yet, but that we were talking about this pre-show that we read about in the Athletic is how these guys change their swings to I mean, we're talking about pitchers' injuries and how these guys get injured by throwing hard and stuff like that. It's the very same process with now all this new data when it comes to swing and how you're swinging. Tristan Casas is a great example. Again, I'm not a doctor. I don't know this. I read all about this, but Casas is a guy that's kind of got that funky swing, but he swings really, really hard. He's just out of the top 10 percentile. And his body is kind of rejecting his swing right now, and he's dealing with some rib issues. So he's one of those guys that might end up wanting to change their swing. Or at least tamper with it a little bit. But they also do have, I mean, you can narrow it down to the guys who have the best swing speed and the best swing length. And it's not a couple of the guys you might not know, you might know top 10 guys with the best swing speed and length when you bring them together. Colton Cowser, Bobby Witt Jr., Corbin Carroll, Lawrence Butler, Oakland A's, shout out, Gunnar Henderson, Jesus Sanchez, Juan Soto, Ellie De La Cruz, Riley Green, and William Contreras rounds out the list. So obviously a lot of those guys are very, very good baseball players, and it obviously makes sense. But one thing I will say, though, before I give it back to you, with comes a lot of speed, comes a lot of whiffs. So just remember that.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. You look at the top of this leaderboard, I'll bring it back up. Giancarlo, strikeout machine. O'Neal Cruz swings and misses a lot. Schwarber swings and misses. Chapman, Acuna is striking out a lot this year. Morel, Adele Judge. I mean, it's no surprise. And I think it's the thing that I think is worth explaining to people is like bat speed is just another component. And Tosh, you said this pre-show is like, you should not be making all of your betting decisions the rest of the season based on bat speed. You should not be making all of your fantasy baseball decisions the rest of the year based on bat speed. Bat speed is very, very important. Velocity is important in baseball. We see this with pitchers. You throw harder. Yeah, you can make a mistake in the middle of the plate. It might be a foul ball instead of a ball into the left field bleachers. It's the same thing in baseball. If you're hitting the baseball hard, the basic math on it is if you're hitting the baseball at an optimal launch angle in that like 15 to 20 degree range, for every 1 mile an hour bat speed you add, that's 1.2 miles an hour of exit velocity, which translates to roughly 6 or 7 feet, depending on the launch angle. So if you add 3 miles an hour of bat speed, that's roughly 18 to 21 extra feet that you're adding to a fly ball, turns those balls on the warning track into balls over the fence. I think the Athletic mentioned there was hundreds of home runs last year that, if you take away 20 feet or you add 20 feet, that's the difference between a home run and a flyout. So bat speed is really, 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 really important. There is not really any valid argument to wanting to have less bat speed. Like even if you pull up these guys who have a lot of success, right? The Luis Arraez was batting 400 for half of a season last year. Stephen Kwan leading the league in batting average for a good part of this season. I know he's in the IL right now. These guys have very, very low bat speed. They also have incredibly rare skill sets, and they have to be perfect. They have to have elite barrel control every single time they step in a batter's box, because their margin for error is like this. Like these guys are almost more impressive to watch as baseball players than the Aaron Judges and the Giancarlos and the, like the Prime Albert Pujols and guys like that, because Arraez and Kwan have this much margin for error. If they don't put the bat on the baseball, if they're not putting the barrel on the baseball, like they are not having productive at bats. I mean, they're not going to consistently hit the ball over the fence or in the gap. versus guys who are bigger and stronger, guys who have better bat speed, they have the ability to miss hit a baseball and still have a positive outcome, whether it's a home run, a ball in the gap, whatever, because they're hitting the baseball so hard.
Yeah, and I mean, and if you can pull up Savant again and sort it by contact percentage, you'll see, like, obviously you have William Contreras and Juan Soto who have elite bat speed and hit the ball very, very have elite contact percentage. So obviously very good. But everybody else on that list that high contact guys doesn't have a very high bat speed. That doesn't necessarily mean they're bad hitters. I mean, if you take a look at that list, I mean, so Blake Perkins has been pretty damn good this year. Luis Arraez, obviously very good. Mark Canha, a solid hitter. Mookie Betts is on that list. I mean, you're going to try to tell me that Mookie Betts isn't good, you know what I mean? Because he doesn't have elite bat speed. I mean, no. So again, it's just something to take into consideration. That's all my point is trying to make.
Yep. No, I completely agree. And I think my last point on this too is, like, bat speed is not everything. Like, we use bat speed tracking technology all the time. And like, for those of you who don't know, like, I direct a baseball academy, and like, we use bat speed tracking technology, the same technology that the pros use. And the one thing that we tell all of our guys is, like, bat speed is very, very important to train, but it should not be the end all be all of, like, whether or not that was a good swing. And like, for example, I saw somebody on Twitter was sharing bat speed correlated with pitch velocity today, and there's a negative relationship. So like, as pitcher velocity goes up, bat speed goes down. And the theory that the guy posted behind this was, well, guys are trying to shorten their swing against guys who have better velo. That makes sense somewhat. But really, like, I mean, even major league hitters, it's very rare that you'll see a guy change his swing mid at bat or like pitcher to pitcher and things like that. Like, your swing is your swing. It's such a fine-tuned process that you're probably not messing with it too much, because as soon as you mess with it, it's really, really hard to get back to where you would like it to be. I think a far more likely outcome of this is, like, there are guys who use the whole field who they're sacrificing a little bit of bat speed, because if you're catching the ball deeper in the zone, your bat has less time to speed up. So if you think about it, like, I know I'm sitting in front of a computer screen, it's a little bit harder to show this, but if you're consistently catching the ball out front, which is easier to do against 90, 92 miles an hour fastball velocity, obviously, because you have more time to get out in front of a pitch, your bat has more time on plane to speed up. So when you're measuring the bat speed at the point of contact, you're catching the ball out in front of the plate. So your bat has an extra fraction of a second to speed up. Your bat speed can be a little bit quicker. If you're catching the ball deeper, which obviously happens against stronger velo a lot, because those pitches are getting deeper on the plate, it's harder to be on time against the Hunter Greens, the Mason Millers, Spencer Strider, guys like that. You can still hit a baseball hard the other way. Your bat speed might be down 2 or 3 miles an hour because you caught that ball deeper in the zone, but it doesn't mean it was a bad swing. So I think that's important to look at. Like, when you're looking at guys like Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, who doesn't have elite bat speed. Well, those are guys that go the opposite way a little bit more often than not. Mookie Betts is also a smaller guy, so there's different strategies to hitting. Again, you have to be a little bit more precise with your launch angles and things like that, more selective with the pitches you are hitting, because you're not going to be able to hit the baseball 110 miles an hour every single time the way O'Neal Cruz and Giancarlo and those guys do. So it's a piece of the puzzle. I think my biggest takeaway or biggest piece of advice is, like, it's a piece of the puzzle. Don't go to bat speed and think, oh, like, this guy's good or this guy's bad just based solely on bat speed. Guys have different swings, different approaches, different roles to play on a team. You don't need Stephen Kwan to hit 30 home runs. So he doesn't need to have 75 mile an hour bat speed on a consistent basis. So it's really, really cool that this is free and available to the public, but don't build a bunch of betting models.
No, just have fun with it. I mean, you can see why, like, just messing around, like, you can see why Nolan Arenado might be struggling, because he has one of the longest swing lengths in Major League Baseball with one of the worst bat speeds in Major League Baseball. So it's taking him the longest, and he's not swinging it hard at all. So those things make sense too. So, but yeah, let's talk about some teams and players now that we're getting all the analytics out of our system a little bit. Commish, why don't you talk about those guys from Detroit Rock City?
Yeah, the Tigers, I'm trying to catch a team on the upswing at this moment. So the Tigers, they interplay. They're only 500 on the season right now. They're 21 and 21, but I think it's worth noting this team, they've gotten some good starting pitching out of Flaherty. Tariq School's been very good. The bullpen's been pretty good. the offense is like just finally starting to come around. And if you go look at the Tigers' upcoming schedule, I know they lost to the Marlins today, 1-0, which Reese Olson pitched phenomenal again today. But they have the Marlins. They'll have a chance to win the series on Wednesday against them. They got Mize on the hill, so I think that's that's a good shot to take 2 out of 3. They get 3 against Arizona under 500. They get 3 against the Royals. They're going to have Skubal and they're going to have Olsen in that game as well, or in that series as well. Then you get the below 500 Blue Jays, below 500 Pirates for a couple of games. The Red Sox hovering right around 500, missing some key pieces. The Rangers slumping a little bit. Milwaukee, Washington, Houston. Like, all of a sudden, you can start to see this Detroit team, if they keep pitching well. Spencer Torkelson's finally hit a couple of home runs the last couple of days. If they can just start swinging it a little bit, this team has the potential to be 5-10 games over 500 by the middle of June, if they take advantage of this nice little stretch of games they have coming up. That, a lot of these games at home too, with Toronto 4 at home, Pittsburgh 2 at home. They'll come back. They'll have Milwaukee and Washington at home again. The White Sox come up in the middle of June as well. So like, they have a lot of very, very winnable games on their schedule right now, and they're doing it really without a whole lot of offense. I mean, they got Riley Green swinging the bat well, but that has been pretty much it for these guys. They're not getting a ton of offense out of Kerry Carpenter. They're not getting a ton out of, Spencer Torkelson, again, just really coming around. Really, really hurts to have Javi Baez in the lineup every single day, but he's not going anywhere with that contract. But Colt Keith hasn't swung it well. Parker Meadows hasn't swung it well. Joe Urshela. Like, none of these guys have really swung the bat well. And I know some people might sit here and say, well, they're never going to swing the bat well. You can only be so bad, truly. As the weather starts to warm up, Spencer Torkelson was a guy who was homering at a 45, 50 homer pace the second half of last season. You have to believe that he's going to turn it around here at some point. Good hitter that sees all pitch types well. Wenzel Perez has been a really nice success story for them. 881 OPS through 25 games so far. He's been batting towards the top of the lineup. Like, there's a lot of potential with this group. They're one of the few teams in baseball, I think, that has legitimate starting pitching, like a legitimate ace co-ace combination with Skubal, Flaherty throwing a ton of strikes, and then having guys like Mize and Maeda and Olsen who can be quality 3, 4, 5 guys. And then you have a few guys in the 7, 8, 9 portions of the game out of the bullpen that can really be lockdown options. So they're not trending up just yet, but I didn't want to go back to one of my teams that I've talked about in the last couple shows on here. So I'm trying to get his team on the upswing. I think Detroit is one of these teams. They're 500 as we do the show today. I think 2 shows, 3 shows from now, they could be 5 or 7 games over.
Yeah. And Detroit has a functioning bullpen. They've had a couple bullpen blowups over the last couple of weeks. Andrew Chafin's got to figure some things out, but they've had a lot of success from that bullpen. So guys like Joey Wentz, Jason Foley, I know he's only pitched 6. Those guys haven't pitched very much, but Faedo's been really good for them. Tyler Holton's been really good for them. So, I mean, if they continue to get this pitching the way that they have, again, talking in context, I don't expect them to win divisions or go to World Series, but this Detroit team's a lot better than probably people give them credit for. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, plus 235 to make the playoffs right now. I think if you're going to buy in on this team, I think now is the time ahead of this soft portion of the schedule. We gave out Houston to miss the playoffs a few weeks ago. It was even money, and it's now minus 160. So I think this is another opportunity on the futures market if you're looking to get some action in at this point in the season. Plus 235. I just don't think that price will be around for much longer.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I would 100% agree. So it's again, getting good teams in like this in your portfolio when you can. I think when you have a team like the Tigers that have been pitching like this, and sooner or later you seem like probably those bats start to come around a little bit more, especially if you got a team like in the playoff race. So yeah, I like that as well.
100%. But I know you got a team that you like as well. NL East team, probably the Braves. Right? It's got to be
a yeah, no, it's the Philadelphia Phillies. One of my favorite teams. I've been really riding this team over the last couple of years. So I just wanted to touch on what they've been doing. Even with the Trey Turner injury, I know that JT Realmuto is down with some knee issues. Over the last 30 games, 23-7 the last 30. This team has just been absolutely rolling. And just you can see why. I mean, getting contributions all over. I mean, obviously, like I said, Trey Turner's been hurt right now, but Alex Bohm in 41 games played, 158 WRC plus, 329 average, and playing fantastic defense as well. Bryce Harper started to play really well. Bryson Stott is another guy, 133 WRC plus, 277 average. Doesn't play the very good defense, but again, one of those guys that's very solid. And then the Phillies pitching staff. I mean, I can't really say much more about this pitching staff. I mean, ultimate. I mean, show-stopping the numbers that these guys have put on over this season right now. I just feel like when you have when you have a guy like Ranger Suarez that should be essentially your third guy, and he's pitching like an absolute ace. It's really hard not to like them. Not to mention the fact that you had Aaron Nola come out and pitch a shutout against the Mets here today. Christopher Sanchez is a funky lefty that if he starts to find it, that's going to give you 4 solid arms. And then you can just figure out. I understand that Taijuan Walker hasn't been great, but here's another thing. The Phillies bullpen hasn't been very good either, and they're still figuring out ways to win. The one thing I will point out is that Philly's been very lucky with their schedule. In those last 30 games, I think they've only played 6 teams above 500. They're beating up on a lot of bad teams. They're 25-11 against teams under 500, but they are, like I said, 23-7 their last 30. That has to be talked about, and they're doing it with some of their best players injured at times. So I just wanted to make sure to give the Phillies their flowers when I had the chance. They're one of those teams that I think that everybody knows that's good, but I don't even think that I realized how good they have been until I looked at what they were doing over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, for sure. Best run differential in baseball at this point. Best record in baseball at this point. 15-7 at home, 15-6 on the road. They're just getting the job done. You mentioned the starting pitching. I think it's been fantastic. And then you have a guy like Spencer Turnbull that you're using out of the bullpen who had a great start. This rotation, I feel like they're almost like too good. They're not sexy to the point where everybody's talking about them nonstop. But Zach Wheeler, bona fide Cy Young candidate every single season. Aaron Nola, he's had a little bit of ups and downs, but very, very reliable. Going to give you a chance to win every 5 days when he's on the mound. Ranger Suarez is pitching out of his mind, like you said. Christopher Sanchez has been pretty good, especially at home. Other than Taijuan Walker, man, he's really the only guy where if you're a Phillies fan, on days where Taijuan Walker pitches, you're like, we're probably gonna have to swing it a little bit to give ourselves a chance to win today. Every single one of these other guys, so 80% of your games, you're walking in like, yeah, we could probably win this game 4-3, 4-2.
Just to give you guys a stat on how good the Phillies starting pitching have been in 2023, the Phillies had 5 starts of 7+ scoreless innings all of 2023. They've had 5 of those. They've had 6 of them already, with if you include Aaron Nola's today, 6 of them already today. So is that they've actually giving their bullpen time to figure it out, and I do think that they figure it out. There's no doubt about that. So yeah, it's just this team is just. Again, I understand that they had an absolute heartbreaker in the NLCS last year, but they've also been there back-to-back years. I think that this team is a very, very, very scary team.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's worth noting too. I mean, 2 things worth noting on the schedule front. First, you got to beat up on the weak teams.
Right.
If you're losing to these weak teams, we'd be the first people up here saying, and they're only 500 and they played all these weak teams so far.
Right.
And the other thing is coming up, they got a couple more against the Mets. They got the Nationals. They got the Rangers around 500. The Rockies are freaking terrible. The Giants have half their team on the injured list right now. The Cardinals have been terrible. Milwaukee's unimpressive. The Mets, they're really not facing any juggernauts again until the middle of June. They get Baltimore, and even after that, they get San Diego, Arizona, Detroit, Miami, the Cubs, and then right before the All-Star break, they get the Braves and the Dodgers back to back. Those would be some tough games, but they really are going to be smooth sailing into the All-Star break. If they can beat weak teams, they got a lot more weak teams coming up. This is a team that's already 30-13. I mean, they I wonder what their record is or best record in baseball. Do we have that market open? I don't know. Sometimes they close this during the season. Yeah, I'm not seeing it right now, but the Phillies to have the 1 seed in the National League plus 450, not terrible. They can hit, they can pitch. They're not playing Kyle Schwarber on the outfield every day. Like, I feel like this is a team that can do it all in 2024.
Yeah, I definitely I feel 100% the same way. That rotation with the way that they're pitching, so they would have to like essentially fall off a cliff. So, obviously they've shown that they can beat the Braves in the playoffs as well. And the Braves haven't been as scary. So I know I'm the resident Braves hater, but I mean, again, they've been winning some games and
Certified.
stuff. But I'm
Certified.
just you have to agree with me that Braves offense hasn't necessarily been the same as it was last year in
Not
any
even
way,
close.
shape, or
Not
form.
even
So
close.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying that they're winnable. Also, if you look, like I said, if you look at that Phillies schedule, they play the Braves. They don't play. They only play the Braves for like a 4-game set, and then after that, it's. Let's hold on. Actually, I'll just pull it up just really quickly. Yeah, they play the Braves on August 29th through September 1st, and then after that, it's Miami, Rays, Mets, Brewers, Mets, Cubs, Nats to finish their series or finish their season. So they should finish the season rolling, bearing any injuries and whatnot. But yeah, so it should be a fun one to watch. That's for sure.
Yeah. 100%. Well, what about on
But
the other side of the ledger? So I know we have our teams that we like, our teams that we're optimistic about going forward. Players that have not performed up to expectations, guys who it's like, hey, it's May 15th. You've had your month and change at this point. Like what's going on? I know you got a couple of guys that you want to talk about.
yeah, so Julio Rodriguez and Bo Bichette. I mean, both of them have 2 homers apiece, and it's hard to figure out how these guys that have, shown constantly to start their careers have been really good. I mean, Julio and Rodriguez, Bo Bichette have. Let's go with Julio Rodriguez, 28 home runs as a rookie in 2022, 32 home runs last year. Bo Bichette, 24 home runs in 2022, 20 home runs last year. Yet each of them has only 2 home runs this year. Bo Bichette, OPS has dropped from 814 last year to 552 this season. Julio Rodriguez, slow start last year. His seen his OPS fall off from 818 last season to 633 this year. I just wanted to point out that it's not always just names and these guys are always going to play well. You really have to pay attention to who's playing in which. I mean, if you pull up Bo Bichette's baseball savant page, it is terrible. And when I say terrible, I mean the only reg that you see is in whiffs, K percentage, and then you see like average exit velocity and hard hit. But when you have the K rate and whiff rate in the reds as well, those reds don't really mean anything at all. It's just been really, really tough sledding for Bo Bichette. I mean, a 218 average. I mean, slugging 306, like I said, a 581 OPS. I mean, that's almost a 300-point drop from the last 2 years. He's just really doing nothing, and defensively, it's almost even worse. I'm not even going to let Commish jump in here because he could go 10 minutes on how bad Bo Bichette is defensively. But I will say that Julio Rodriguez has a lot more. I guess he has a lot more potential to work with. I would say 253 right now, 319 slug, 626 OPS. Again, that's still 200 points worse. His baseball savant page isn't as well, and he's like one of the best center fielders in Major League Baseball. So I do think there's positive things coming for Julio Rodriguez. I think he started to break out over the last couple of nights. They ended up losing tonight against the Royals, but I do think Julio Rodriguez is going to figure it out sooner or later. And if he does figure it out, that's going to really make the Mariners scary, because we all know that the Mariners pitch. I don't think that there's any question about that. It's can the Mariners hit? Can the Mariners hit during the day, especially as well? That savant page shows me that Julio Rodriguez is probably going to figure it out. But regardless, both those guys really, really slow starts. And I think that is kind of surprising because you hear those names and you don't really think of slow starters. But it's been pretty ugly for those two.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing. I'll keep my comments on Bo Bichette short because I know we all know that I struggle to be objective with the Blue Jays and especially with Bo Bichette. But when you look at these guys' approaches to, like, this is something I always take a look at and see like what types of pitches are they offering at. So the heart of the zone, you want to swing at these pitches pretty much all the time. These are very hittable pitches that you can do damage with, especially if you're a really good hitter. So a guy like Julio Rodriguez, okay, so he's swinging at those pitches more often than the league average. That's a good sign. So where are things going wrong? Well, he's swinging at a lot of pitches on the edge of the zone, what Baseball Savant categorizes as the shadow part of the zone. You can see league average swing rate on these pitches about 52%. Rodriguez 64%, and then Rodriguez also, we know he likes to chase. He's a free swinger, is what it is. But I'm with you on Julio Rodriguez. He's got speed that impacts the game. He's got defense that impacts the game. Like, even if Julio Rodriguez has a down year in terms of power production, in terms of run production, like raw run production at the plate, Julio Rodriguez is an asset. My concern, and this is, I mean, we've talked about this at length, so I'm not going to spend a million years on this, is like a guy like Bo Bichette swings at everything. And I know he's been hitting the baseball a little bit, in terms of the exit velos and whatnot, but he swings at a ton of pitches outside of the zone, a ton of pitches on the shadow of the strike zone. This is something he's done consistently throughout his career. You see he chased all these pitches outside of the heart of the plate way more often than they did, or way more often than the league average. And what ends up happening is Bichette doesn't walk a whole lot. He doesn't see a whole lot of pitches. He's a guy who just swings and swings and swings. He's got a really good lower half. Like that's why his contact rate is so good. It's like he can just sit in that back hip, fling his hands at the baseball. Yeah, no, so like Bo Bichette is one of those guys, like when things are going well, they're going very well for him because he has a lower half that he can control. He can sit on the off speed and the breaking stuff. He's not going to get full terribly bad. He's got quick enough hands to get after the fastball as well. But Bichette just doesn't discriminate at the plate. He's not going up there like one pitch, one spot. At least, this is it's a casual fan's perspective, right? Like for me, I watch Bo Bichette. He swings at a lot of pitchers' pitches, I guess is what you should say, what I would say. And he doesn't have the power that Julio Rodriguez does. Rodriguez can hit some of those balls out of the park. He can hit some of those balls in the gap. He's got the elite bat speed. He's young. There's a lot, and I know Bichette's only 26, but like J-Rod is young. He still has that power to all fields. Bichette's had some injuries, some lower half injuries. There's some real concerns with Bichette. I think his approach has always been problematic. He's always been a guy who's had smaller margins for error than others. So I mean, his expected stats are a little bit better than his surface level stats at this point, but he's still, I mean, his expected batting average is what, 246? That's still below league average. His expected WOBA is still, I think, 28th percentile. I'll pull it back up here. There's just not a whole lot to like with Bo Bichette. And the defense, like you said, I mean, his defense is atrocious, and not just atrocious anywhere. It's atrocious at one of the most important positions, if not the most important position on the diamond. You want to be strong with the middle, catcher, shortstop, center field. Well, J-Rod checks that box in center, playing elite in the outfield. Bichette's a liability at short. He's always been a liability at short. I mean, it hurts, man. You're not walking. Also, I'm just noticing the added bat speed to the Savant table here, which is really cool. That's it. I'm going to shut up. I'm going to rant about both.
I was letting you go. I was going to let you let it out.
We're going to get a bunch of negative feedback. Commish hates the Blue Jays. He hates Bo Bichette.
Let it out. Well, since we're just talking about negative about everything, no, I'm just kidding. But there is a team that I know that I and a couple others that I trust were kind of high on that have started to kind of fall. Why don't you talk about that team on the water out there in San Francisco?
Oh man, I don't want to. I don't want to. It's my guy Young-Hoo Lee.
I know, dude. What a disappointment. I hate when seeing guys go down like that.
I know, and this kid, I mean, he's been really fun to watch. Just really, really good bat to ball skills. Dislocated his shoulder after he hurt his foot. He finally came back after a couple of days off. Came back, dislocated his shoulder in the first inning. Run into the wall in center field. This Giants team now, no Young-Hoo Lee's been batting leadoff most of the year for them, occasionally in the 3-hole. No Michael Conforto, who's having a really good start to the year. No Jorge Soler, who big offseason acquisition for them. Nick Ahmed was in the starting lineup for them on opening day. And then, no Austin Slater. Patrick Bailey's got a concussion now. Tom Murphy.
Really quickly, I think Patrick Bailey is huge because he can control the running game on the opposing team, and especially when you take that away as well, that can be really huge. So yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned him because I think that he's a bigger loss than people realize.
100%. One of the best catchers in baseball from a defensive standpoint, for sure. And he's been swinging it pretty well this year as well. Blake Snell, he should be back here soon, but him, Robbie Ray, Alex Cobb, like all these guys, on the pitching side as well out. The Giants are just in a tough spot because
Well, also to that catching position as a whole, Tom Murphy's hurt as well. So now they're down to Blake Sable,
yep.
who took a shot off of his inner leg today. So yeah, that catching position, which I understand a lot of people kind of look over, but it's a lot more important than you think in Major League Baseball. So when you're down to your third string catcher, a guy that's usually not there, and a guy that usually for the most part hasn't worked with these starters, there can be issues that come about. So I apologize for interrupting.
No, you're good. I mean, I think those are all important, valid things to bring up, and it's true. Like you're not used to catching those guys. I mean, you're clearly down the depth chart. So I mean, even if you're getting an opportunity with a big league club, you weren't thought of as a 1 or 1A or even a 2 guy to begin the season. So now you're a little bit thin on depth. You're missing some offensive pieces. This is already a Giants lineup that's been struggling as of late, bottom 10 in pretty much every offensive metric that matters across the board the last 14 last 2-3 weeks. So that was already a concern for them. You lose Lee, Soler, Ahmed, Patrick Bailey, Tom, like all of these guys. Conforto's not in there, and the bullpen's in a tough spot. They're being overused because they're not getting a ton of depth out of the starting or a ton of length out of the starting pitching. They lost to the Dodgers on Monday after having an early lead because the bullpen fell apart. They got the piss beat out of them on Tuesday because they just have no pitching. They can't hit. They're going to play again on Wednesday. I'll tell you, I don't even care that Logan Webb's on the mound. I'm going right back to the Dodgers again on Wednesday. Then they get the Rockies, so they get a little bit of a reprieve with 6 games against the Rockies and the Pirates. So it does lighten up a little bit. But then you have, you have the Mets, which are probably a better team than the Giants at this point when you factor in health, and then you get the Phillies, the Yankees. It's not really an easy schedule coming up for them. This is a team that I was high on. I thought they did a lot of good things in the offseason. I liked that they went and got Matt Chapman on a low risk deal, Jorge Soler on a lower deal. They had higher upside guys like Alex Cobb and Robbie Ray coming off the IL. Young-Hoo Lee I thought was a phenomenal pickup that we didn't even get to see the best out of Young-Hoo Lee before he got hurt. It sucks, man. It sucks. The Giants, I feel like they won 107 games and everybody's like, oh, it's the biggest fraudulent team in Major League history. I thought they did a lot of things really, really well that year. They've missed the mark in the last couple of seasons for one reason or another. This year, I thought they had a nice opportunity to bounce back, get back in the postseason. It's tough in baseball. It's a 162 game season, so I think sometimes there's this feeling of like, oh, it's only 10 days, 2 weeks, whatever. It's tough to make those games up, man. They all count the same, especially when you're losing intra-division games against the Dodgers. If you have the Padres and teams like that on your schedule as well, and you're not winning those games, it's really, really difficult to make that stuff up. They're a team with a tough schedule too. They're going to play a lot of teams over 500 the rest of the season. If they dig themselves too big of a hole right now, I mean, this could be it. This could be it for the Giants, and unfortunately, it looks like Young-Hoo Lee and a couple of these guys are looking at more lengthy absences, which it just sucks. There's no other way to put it. It sucks.
Well,
I'm not a Giants homer, but I liked what this organization was doing. I thought they did a lot of good things in the offseason, and it sucks to just not even have the bodies on the field to see how this would have played out.
Yeah, I don't think that you were crazy to like what the Giants did in the offseason. I think they went for it. I mean, if you would have told me coming into the year that we're talking today on May 14th that Lamont Wade Jr. Was hitting 330 with a 472 on base, slugging 447 with a 171 WRC plus, I'd be like, whoa, are the Giants rolling? Unfortunately, he's the only guy that freaking can hit on this baseball team. I mean, if you look at any other guy that gets consistent plate appearances, Matt Chapman, 73. Keep in mind that 100 is league average for WRC plus. So if you're just a minimal, just average baseball player, you are a 100 WRC plus. Matt Chapman, 73 WRC plus. Theo Estrada, 99 WRC plus. Young-Hoo Lee, 89 WRC plus. Jorge Soler, 93 WRC plus. Michael Conforto was pitting well at 136. Lamont Wade, like I said. Wilmer Flores, 72. Nick Ahmed, 65. Yastrzemski, 73. What are we doing? They can't hit. Their pitching staff isn't giving them length. The bullpen's terrible. I don't even know if the bullpen's terrible. They're just used so much, it doesn't even really matter.
Yeah.
It's just I thought that they would be something a little bit more special than they have been. I don't know. I mean, you got guys like Chapman and stuff on 1-year deals and what are short contracts. It's just really, really bad. So San Francisco ranks in the bottom third of the NL in runs per game and in ERA. So it's just not good.
Yep. It's not a winning formula. I mean, that's easy enough to
No.
say that. You don't need a whole bunch of advanced analysis to know that if you're giving up a lot of runs and you're not scoring a lot of runs, it's tough to win baseball games.
100%. 100%. So,
well,
you want to talk about some betting tips of the week before we get out of here? I know we got a couple things. We got some feel good stories I know I want to touch on and whatnot too. But did you have anything right now?
Yeah. So we have one question that we got from last week's video in the comments. We had a user say, I know about Ballpark Pal, StatMuse, Fangraphs, ESPN, OddsJam, Baseball Reference. Are there any other websites you guys use on a regular basis to handicap or find info? What are your personal faves?
So for me, here's a couple things. I use Fangraphs and Baseball Savant over and over and over again. I think that if you get, and I also use Baseball Reference. Baseball Reference is, I really like Baseball Reference. It doesn't give you any like the StatCast numbers really or anything like that, but it gives you a really good overview on the teams and who they're in their splits and all kinds of stuff like that. So I'm a kind of like a weirdo guy, like a guy that likes to, like, if I'm trying to find guys that maybe I'm short on plays that day, I'll go in and look how certain guys hit in certain stadiums and whatnot. And Baseball Reference does a really good job with that. But Baseball Savant is another one where I know they can be a little bit intimidating because there's a lot of numbers and sayings and stuff, but there's also a glossary that can help you and whatnot. But my thing would be just figure out one of them, whether it be Baseball Savant or Fangraphs or whatever, but understand how to use them and be proficient in them. So because you don't want to like not know how to, you want to barely use some of them and then not know how to use any of them type of thing. So understand how to use them. Ballpark Pal is one of the other ones that's really simple to use. They do a fantastic job over there. It's like $10 a month. It's well worth it. They have a ton of data, whether it be weather, pitching matchups, simulations, all kinds of stuff like that. And then also, I mean, not to promote our own thing, but what Kyle and Beaver have done with some of their spreadsheets. I post these spreadsheets daily that go through these teams that have been what they're doing against right-handed pitching the last 7 days, 14 days, 30 days, the right-handed pitching they've seen, how good they are off of bullpens. I mean, the amount of information on those pages are endless. So, and you get those by signing up on KyleKearns.com and doing our stuff. So again, there's a ton of free stuff out there as well, but those are a couple paid ones that we can use as well. But yeah, it's those free ones are really good as well, though. But yeah, that's how I would answer that one.
I agree with you. The amazing thing about betting on baseball, or even just being a fan of baseball, is all of the really, really important information is available for free. Fangraphs, you can pay a membership for if you want to get the ads taken off. I think it's $25 a year, which I will shamelessly advocate for everybody to pay, because Fangraphs has a very, very small team of people that provides a wealth of information. I mean, like I wouldn't even know what to do on a day-to-day basis without Fangraphs. I probably am on that page at least 2-3 hours a day for everything that I do.
I have 3 different Fangraph pages bookmarked in my favorites.
Yeah.
So yeah, the amount of information, even if it's just Fangraphs, if you just want to use Fangraphs for bullpen usage and Baseball Savant for all the geeky numbers and whatever, I mean, yeah, that works too. So, but yeah, I did want to go over a little bit just to touch on some of these better bullpens in Major League Baseball right now to pay attention to, because I think some of them really, some of them you might know, some of them you might not know. The Yankees are one of these teams that figure out ways to find just nasty guys out of the bullpen. Clay Holmes has been absolutely dominant for them. Ian Hamilton is at like a 2.89 ERA. Luke Weaver's been really good for them. They have a couple lefties in Caleb Ferguson and Victor Gonzalez that have figured it all out. And then not to mention the Yankees have more guys coming with Tommy Kinghill, Scott Efros, Lou Trevino coming out. So again, if you're betting the Yankees and stuff on a daily basis, know that bullpen is something that's definitely going to be a good thing to have on your side. Cleveland, another bullpen that's really starting to impress me. That Cleveland team impressed me again today. I was on the Rangers today. And Cleveland just got all over Jack Leiter, which I guess that makes sense, but the reverse line movement didn't make sense. But regardless, that Cleveland bullpen's been fantastic. Emmanuel Clase, a 0.47 ERA this year. Guardians ranked second in all of baseball in reliever ERA, trailing just the Yankees. Clase's, like I said, been absolutely fantastic, and he's been good over and over and over for them. Hunter Gaddis and Scott Barlow are finally picking things up. This Cleveland team could be legitimate if they can get consistency out of those starters, which they have starting to get, and they find some ways to get runs. Cleveland can be another one to watch. And then the other one,
real quick on the Guardians too. Like, so this is on Fangraphs as well. So you can just filter relief pitchers 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. This is the Guardians in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning this season. They have a 224 FIP. Their whip, league best 0.94. You can see a very, very healthy K to walk ratio, third best K percentage in baseball, walking fewer guys than anybody in the league in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. It's really, 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 really important because when they get a lead, they're not messing around. They're like, you can sometimes the only thing I will say about bullpen numbers that is sometimes a little bit tricky is it factors in all the guys who are pitching in the late innings. So if you have really bad lower leverage guys, but really good higher leverage guys, the lower leverage guys can skew those numbers somewhat. But the Guardians, 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, they have a lead. They go to, there's a couple different guys they've been using in the 7th, but then you have Gaddis, who's been in there a lot of times in the 8th, and then Clase in the 9th. They're really not messing around. It's a team like Cleveland is a team where they have a lead early. They are very, very rarely blowing it late. I know they've had a couple of blown saves, but by and large, this team has been damn near unhittable in the late innings. Really, really nice for a first-year manager as well to have that kind of reliability late in games. But they've been very, very good. When you're striking a lot of guys out, you're not walking a lot of guys. Your outcomes are usually going to be pretty good in whatever area of pitching that you're looking at. In this case, the bullpen, where strikeouts matter a lot, especially late in games. If you're trying to if you're coming in and guys are on base and you need a big punch out or something like that, the Guardians have some really, really good things cooking in the late innings right now.
Yeah, it's been really, really impressive. So, and then the other last bullpen that I wanted to touch on is Minnesota, because you have a guy like Duran, who's back now, but they had guys in Griffin Jackson, Cole Sands, really step in and do a really good job. Griffin Jackson like a 2.7 ERA, Cole Sands a 2.76 ERA. Then they had Stephen O'Kirk pitching really well. Not to mention Brock Stewart, who is recovering from an injury, has been really good. And then they're going to have a guy in Justin Topa that they got from Seattle in the Polanco deal. He could really add another guy, just like the Yankees, they have guys that's coming back as well. So just something to pay attention to. I really, really pay attention to bullpens. I think it's a huge deal in Major League Baseball. I mean, if you know Major League Baseball, you don't need me to tell you that, but I really try to hone in on bullpens, and those three especially have really impressed me, because especially with that Minnesota, with Jack Sands, O'Kirk, with having Duran out and those guys thrust into those higher leverage situations, now they're more comfortable with it, which that makes that even more dangerous for them. So, and I trust what Rocco Baldelli's been able to do. So, because the Twins have been kind of injury laden as well, and Ryan Jeffers has pop. They've been going hot, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I just want to say that.
No, I think that's important.
You love Ryan Jeffers, don't you, Commish?
You either love Ryan Jeffers or you hate him.
No, he's balling this year. He is balling out.
I like Ryan Jeffers. I like him a lot. I like the Twins as well. So
tough loss today, though. He had a leadoff home run, then they lost 5-1.
You can't win them all. You can't win them all. And the Twins have won most as of late.
They have.
Real quick, just touching on some K targets for this week. One thing to note, last week in this article, I talked about Houston could be falling off a little bit in the contact department with Loper Fido getting called up. Had a really high K rate in the minors. It's translated to the big leagues so far. They did indeed fall off of this list. This week is a high contact team. So a couple surprise teams on here with Miami and Chicago, teams that have historically last year, early part of this season, did not make a lot of contact, starting to make more contact as of late. So Miami's on here, the White Sox, Baltimore, Kansas City, Arizona, and the Angels. Kansas City and the Diamondbacks have been on here pretty much all season, making a lot of contact. Good teams to target for unders as far as K props go. Got teams that are going to put a lot of balls in play as well. Low contact teams, not really surprised. The Mariners have not been able to make contact against literally anybody this season. The Red Sox, worth noting that Zach Eflin had 2 strikes on 13 of the first 17 batters that he faced a couple nights ago. They managed to only strike out twice. This is a team that's going to swing and miss a lot. I know Savali had a very good night on Tuesday as well against them. I expect more of the same. Rockies, 8 strikeouts again against Dylan Cease on Tuesday, despite the fact that they were able to get to Cease for a couple of runs. So some teams not making very much contact. These are teams that you can throw in, if you're looking for alt lines and things like that. Teams that are not making a whole lot of contact whatsoever.
Yeah. So I just we try to, like I said, this is a baseball, all-encompassing baseball show. I just wanted to give a little praise to Trevor Williams. I know he had a start today, so I don't know what these numbers look like with his start today. I know that they won his start in the first game. I know they lost the second game, but I just wanted to say, Trevor Williams, touche, my friend. Last year, Trevor Williams was 6-10 with a 5.55 ERA and a 5.98 whip, or I'm sorry, FIP, and he led the National League with home runs allowed in 34. He's 4-0 this year with a 1.96 ERA and a 2.4 FIP, and he hasn't yielded a home run in 36 and 2/3 innings. I just wanted to throw that out there because he's a guy that it's just everybody laughs when I say it's win day when Trevor Williams takes the mound. This national team is one of the most profitable teams in Major League Baseball to bet on. He's one of the main reasons why his slider and sweeper are only 81 and 77 miles per hour respectively. And guys just can't figure him out right now. It's been really, really fun to watch. Do I expect it to last all season? No, probably not. But right now, Trevor Williams is an all-star. So I just want to point that out. You don't get to see things like that all the time, but he's pitching really well right now. So flowers to you, Trevor Williams.
I'm not going to lie. I could see this lasting with Trevor Williams for quite some time. That's a 41% whiff rate with the sweeper. He's thrown it a lot more this season. It's no joke, man. It's he seems to have found a much more optimal pitch mix to attack hitters with, and
Yeah, well, he has that. And I think with that, like you said, with that pace mix, he has that curveball now that if it's almost like a get me over pitch that sometimes for him that really can put him ahead in accounts because their hitters aren't looking for it. So he could almost steal strikes with that thing sometimes, which is really fun to watch as well. So.
Yeah, but he's been very, very good. I think one of the more underrated pitchers to start the season in baseball, and the expected stats are there as well. So it's not as though this guy is. It's not as though he's been lucky. There's a lot of guys who start a season and they have really good luck on balls in play. They're straining a lot of runners, things that were like, okay, like, when's the balloon going to pop? Not really the case with him. He's thrown. And one thing to note, check, bring this back up. So like in 0-0 counts, this is an area where he's been hit pretty hard in recent seasons. He's cut his fastball usage dramatically. You can see he's throwing his sweeper about 16% of the time, up tremendously from where it was last year. He didn't even have the pitch in 2022. So this is a completely different pitcher. Like, I mean, if you have a completely new pitch mix like he does, it's not fair to say, it's Trevor Williams, like he's going to regress, whatever. This is a very, very good pitch, the sweeper that he's throwing, and he's using it in optimal situations in the count, almost working backwards. I know it doesn't really – you're not working backwards in Major League Baseball anymore because so many guys are leading with sweepers and sliders and all of these other pitches that are non-fastballs. But Williams is not over-reliant on a fastball anymore, and it's really helped him out.
Yep, it's been very, very impressive to watch. So I did want to say, since we're speaking of fastballs really quickly, what Robert Suarez is doing for the Padres is absolutely insane. He had a run of 79 consecutive fastballs over a couple of his last couple outings, and Suarez threw 74 four-seamers, 5 sinkers. He allowed no runs, 2 singles, and 2 walks. Suarez right now, 0.52 ERA across 16 appearances. He's tied for the Major League lead in games finished in 16, saves with 12, saves of more than 3 outs with 3. Opponents are hitting just 250 against his changeup and just 0.93, 4 for 43 against his four-seam fastball. And that's all he does is throw heat. That's another guy that when he gets into the game, it's really, really fun to watch because you know what's coming and it doesn't matter because Major League Baseball hitters still can't hit it. And it's crazy to watch.
100%. Well, Tosh, you have any other feel-good stuff before we get out of here?
That's about it for me. What about you, my friend?
No, I mean, I think the one thing I'll highlight is it's always cool every Mother's Day to see all the guys wearing the, all the pink and using the pink bats. I think one thing baseball's done a really, really good job over the last couple of years. I know some people just make fun of them and say it's marketing, but I think it's a really cool sport in the sense that they do a really good job celebrating the holidays. I know we've had the youth baseball weekends where they put the player nicknames on the back of the uniforms. They've done that in recent seasons.
They took that away. It's so
I know they
stupid.
took it away, but like I feel like they do a good job celebrating the 4th of July with the commemorative hats and the Mother's Day with the pink bats and all the pink protective gear with the hitters. You see Jackie Robinson Day, everybody wearing 42. They're making an effort to go play globally, whether it's in London or Mexico City. They're going to play in Negro League stadiums now. That's like a new series that they're doing. I think it's a really cool thing about baseball is that it's a 162 game season, so it gives them more opportunities to do some things that are a little bit out of the norm, to keep things fresh, to make games a little bit more salient and memorable in a way that, football, there's only 17 weeks. You don't have a ton of time to do that type of stuff. Basketball, I know they've played some global games, but it's different. Every court is the same. Different design, obviously, but like the dimensions are the same. A basketball court in Paris is a basketball court in LA, is a basketball court in Cleveland, so to speak. Where in baseball, you get a lot of these, you go play in 7,000 foot altitude in Mexico City. You have the pink bats. It changes the feel of the game, the dynamic of the game. You can celebrate the history of baseball. You can celebrate the present. There's just a lot of cool things that baseball does. So over the weekend, it was cool to see that again. It's always one of my favorite.
Regardless if like the pink bats and stuff are like corny or whatever, like it goes, like they all can do that for charity, and people can buy those, and it all goes to a good cause. So it's like everybody's winning. So I mean, I don't understand like the hate around that, but it is what it is. So we'll get out of here now, but I appreciate everybody joining us. Please feel free to questions, comments, concerns, all that stuff in the comments. We love hearing from you guys. We'll be back next Monday as well. Hopefully there's going to be some more drama in Major League Baseball. You never know what's going to happen over the week. So, and also obviously with all that new stuff with the bat speed, we might find some new metrics or find things to talk about. So for Commish, I'm Toast, and I will see you guys next week. Have a good night.
Sounds good. See you guys.